and I launched the first workshop of 2025. There's 50 people purchased in 24 hours. I just created a digital product with a workshop that hasn't been yet, run an email out to people, and $5,000 is now sitting in the bank account. That isn't a small amount of money. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm going to ensure 100 people come. So it's a $10,000 workshop.
Start believing that the things that you do want are possible, and then go and take the action to do it.
When you're in a life of abundance, doesn't mean you've got heaps of shit. You're willing to give. When you're in a life of lack, you're fear-driven. So how could you let go of something? You can't, because you're like, well, what if I never get it back?
The truth is, there isn't a shortage of anything, only your ability to get it.
Right, fire the fuck up. We're talking about the life of abundance. We got that shitty life of lack out of the way. The 10 minutes of negativity, of fear, of just yuck.
The days.
Yeah. Now we got Mikey fired up, ready, with his pages and pages of notes around living a life of abundance.
This is a better one.
Okay, you happy now?
Yeah, much better now.
Right.
Because this is, truthfully, this is actually more real too. Like I think the like a lack of abundance or scarcity just isn't actually real.
Yeah.
You know, like I was down in between Christmas and New Year. I did a day trip down to Whakatane.
Whakatane, New Zealand, where Benji Marshall comes from.
That's it, where Benji Marshall comes from. And down there, we went down to go fishing, and there are a lot of boats there, but you launch into a river and cross out a bar, and I'd never been there before, and I was just like, how have I never seen this?
Yes.
It's so beautiful and like majestic.
Yeah.
Like it was a nice day and everything, of course, but man, what a spot, and so cool place to launch out of. Great day fishing. Great facilities there to like use on the ramp and clean your boat and stuff. And I was just like, you don't even like, if you could figure out how to get like a little boat and use the stuff that's already there, it's pretty unlimited. Like you just go over there and like catch some fish to eat, and like you don't even need that much. Like it's almost unlimited for you.
Yeah.
Like, and if you just put a little bit more work on top of it, you can go and create more and get more from it.
I've never really spent much time in the Coromandel, and the other day these lads were telling me about all these places in the Coromandel, and I'm just like, nah, Luke's kitchen. Like, who's what? Like, my kitchen. I don't know what people are on about.
You don't want to eat at Luke's kitchen.
And they're like showing me on the map, and I'm thinking, man, like, I don't, but apparently it's unbelievable over there.
Yeah,
and I hear all these stories about it. I'm like, oh, it's just one area of New Zealand that I've never really been to yet. But then also, like, I was like, oh, can you just get a boat over there? And they're like, nah.
Yeah.
Okay, mate. They showed me on the map. I'm like, yeah, it looks pretty close.
Yeah.
But you recently went to the West Coast as well. I'm like, man, what another amazing part of New Zealand.
Yeah, we have it good here in terms of like the land that we live on and the area that we are. Yeah, it's very good.
I think that's part of a life of abundance, is thinking like that. Not like everything's shit, it's all crap, and like you've got to look for opportunity and abundance.
Yeah, I always think no matter how bad or much I dislike a government or, you know, whoever's running the show or something like that, all of the stuff people complain about, I'm like, at least we've got this, eh?
Yeah.
This is mean. Sometimes I drive around the Auckland waterfront, go down to Takapuna, like Whakatane, wherever, far north, like, it's a mean country.
Yeah, and like, it's an amazing country where you can get a driver's license in order to do those things.
Until you lose it.
He'll get it back.
Oh, dear.
What I'll do is I'll run through the notes, which will kind of give context to where I was going with this in terms of here's a life of lack, but then here's how a life of abundance is different.
Yeah.
And so, because some of these things with a life of lack, people will probably get stuck there and go like, okay, what's it like on the other side? So with a life of abundance, what it looks and feels like is it's more free, peaceful, you're grateful, powerful, freedom, loving life, empowered, feel worthy, you got hope. There's, again, like gratitude. And that's very different to like resentful, unworthy, insecure, blame, excuse, deny, impatient, etc. Because then, you know, when you're impatient, what does it lead to? Instant gratification. Can't afford to invest.
Yeah.
Over an abundance. You delay gratification and you invest to afford something later.
Yeah.
Very different to, well, I can't afford to invest, and therefore you live in instant gratification. You've got to learn delayed gratification. You see the internet as a tool to learn, to be inspired, take action, think bigger, grow, connect. Whereas in a life of lack, it's like you're going to use it to find more people that think life's hard, that there's not enough. And you can't even fucking grasp that there's
Yeah.
like an internet cable under the sea that you don't even know how it got there.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to fish on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not allowed to park an anchor on it. Like it's on our GPS when we go on the boat.
Well, dear, don't fuck my internet up, Mikey. Good. There's abundance of places to fish. Just stop fishing on my internet cable.
That's true.
But you don't even know how it's got there, and you're in a life of lack, and you're telling people how tough life is and how there's not enough. And one day that didn't even exist, and you didn't even have access to it. You create the way that you feel, and you learn more about that, and you realize that feelings are actually a choice. And people will be like, no, they're not. It's like, no, okay, go and learn about that, and you start to create the way that you see the world and how you feel. And of course, you're still going to have tough times. Doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen to you. You believe that you're already in possession of your future, and it's in your mind. You've seen it, you know you can achieve it, but you know you just have to do the work. Contrasting to somebody who lives in a life of lack, it's like, no, it's not possible. Believe that achieving future outcomes is not possible for them. Don't have the tools, don't have not what they need, nor the ability that other people have. Whereas when you're in abundance, you're basically already in possession of the things that you want. You just know that you have to turn your mind and your body to doing the work to get them. You have clear intention and thought. So you actually are clear and thinking about the things that you do in your life. You still have challenges, much like those who have a life of lack, but you see challenges as an opportunity to grow. It's not another challenge, poor me, I can't believe this has happened, this doesn't happen to other people. You're like, okay, this is another thing that I'm going to add to my CV of life. You feel the feeling before it occurs. Now, I thought of two examples. So recently we were explaining about on the end of the 2025 podcast, or 2024, sorry, of like, okay, I get my fellowship and it doesn't, like I've already felt that because I knew I could achieve that in my mind years ago. So I was actually in possession of it.
Yeah, that feeling is optimism. That's because you've already done your mindset training to convert from looking for problems to constantly looking for solutions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, as an example, only a small percentage of people become a fellow. My brain goes to, I wonder what they did. How? Okay, I can do that. Why can't that be me? It doesn't go to a life of lack, which is, it's only a small percentage that it'd never be me.
Odds are no good.
Yeah, probability is pretty small. I'm like, I can make that happen. So I'm already in possession of it. Much like you with your CEO role, it doesn't feel like massively different, or to basically now, not doing the broking and now leading the team, because you were already in possession of it in your mind ahead of it actually being the day where you're like, now I transition over into this.
Yeah, same thing, yeah.
So when you live in a life of abundance, you it's really hard to articulate, but those who have achieved things and like get this, they'll understand this, but it's like, it happens and you're like, oh man, cool. Like I kind of already knew that was going to happen because you already had possession of it ahead of it happening.
Yep.
You're more likely to spot programming and propaganda.
Yeah.
So you're like, that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Because you're just thinking completely differently. That there's more and that it's amazing. And then when something doesn't seem right, you're like, I need to go and look into that. But when you're in a life of lack, it's like a fact hits your desk, and you're like, bang.
Yeah.
I knew Obama was caught up in that. And you can't even see that it's like clickbait / fake article.
Yeah, like on the internet at the moment, like people are losing their minds over Donald Trump, who's about to be the president in 2 days, launching a meme coin, and like it's gone up. I saw someone post like, if you invested in this 3 hours ago, you've made better returns than the S&P 500 since 1980.
Yeah.
But like, I was just like, not surprised.
Yeah.
Like I saw who he was hiring into certain roles. A lot of funding came from crypto people for his campaign. Like it's all bought. Like, what do you expect? I just look at it. I'm like, on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But some people get really upset about it,
Yeah.
or really excited the other way, not recognizing that it's no different to all the other scam coins that are out there.
Or even like in New Zealand, there was the data started coming out around the amounts of donations from the property sector to national, and then you see like what's happening in with rules changing in property investment and stuff, and you're like, oh, okay. And then you start to spot it, and you're like, almost like, oh, seriously, like this is happening right under my nose, and I still live here. I've still got to get on with it.
Yeah, no matter, just carry on.
Yeah, but I'm not saying there's nothing like that. You shouldn't then be like, okay, I don't know if I agree with that or like that or whatever, but I'm not like, fuck, I know that it's happened now. I might as well just down tools. The whole country's against me. It's all in favour of these.
I'll never own a house.
Yeah, now I'll never develop a property. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like that. I'm not contributing anymore.
Do you want me to trigger some people?
Oh, Jesus.
The truth is, there isn't a shortage of anything, only your ability to get it.
Ouch.
That hurts, eh?
Yeah.
As I was writing that, I was like, I don't know if I'll talk about that.
Could you put that quote up on your wall at your office?
Yeah, I can do.
Hold your Monday meetings with that in the background. They're all like having to look at you with that above the wall.
It kind of is true, though, right? Like, the only shortage is your ability to go and get something because everything else is available. You know, like a $10 million house, there is a $10 million house. Then it's not like they don't exist. It's only your ability and skill and stuff needed to go and own it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's the same for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, again, you use the internet to learn, to be inspired, to take action, to think bigger, to grow, connect. And you're going to go find people that have done that and be like, what are the lessons? What I need to know? Whereas Life of Lack, it's going to be like, okay, I'm going to use the internet to find more people who can't, you know, do the things that you're saying that you can't do as well, so that you can validate the fact that, oh, it doesn't work.
Yeah, you can like live. The internet is basically like unlimited and free resource. And you can go on there, use the tech, use the info, use the, and believe the propaganda. Or you can flip it and use it for education, and it's your choice.
Yeah.
So I know which one I'd rather choose.
Yeah. Yep, you got to curate your feed. You got to curate what you're consuming. Yeah. You repel and start to become intolerant of negativity. So you start to really...
That's why I couldn't finish that last podcast, man.
Bingo. See, like how hard it was? Yeah. And you get, you get so clear on abundance and opportunity and things like that. You start to surround yourself with more of that. Then when like this shit tries to infiltrate, you're like, oh, fuck off. I tried to live like that. I tried that. Like, I'm done. I'm 6 years, I'm 6 years clean.
Yeah.
You know? Like, go to rehab. Like, Life of Lack rehab, jeepers. But they won't even believe that that's a thing. Like, Life of Lack people will be listening to that being like so out of touch. You know, they'll have some new concept that they've heard from the media that people are now saying, and they'll say that too. People in abundance, they believe that they are in control of their destiny. But then deep down know that, like, when it's your time, like, life's going to be like, you're done. Like, they're real to that stuff too.
I think you just control what you can control, eh?
Yeah.
And then be honest with yourself about the bits you can't control.
Lastly, mate, they'll tackle their past. So going back to Life of Lack, it's won't deal with their past, and their past defines their future. Whereas someone who is opportunity-driven, living in a life of abundance, is willing to tackle their past head on. Like, okay, I've learned that that's something holding me back from my past. Let's fucking roll.
Yeah, don't do that again.
Yeah.
That was a mistake.
Yeah.
Whatever my dad did, that was no good, or if that was good, I'll do that. Choice.
Yep. And they believe that the past doesn't define their future. So it's basically the opposite. So I guess why we wanted to do this is to show if you get stuck in a life of lack, or even if you have friends that are there, those are sort of some of the compartments of it, or the things that you'll be seeing in them, and then you've almost got to try and help them swap into this stuff. And like, I do this every week with business owners when they'll be talking about the lack of leads or the lack of customers that they could be dealing with. And then I have to be like, okay, like, how do I move them from lack to abundance and help them start to work through that? And when you work with the right sort of person that's just stuck there, they don't actually live a life of lack. Because I can't really help these people. It doesn't work. You can't really be in business like that.
No.
Especially not a next advisory client. But but they get stuck there for a bit, and you've got to dial them like back into abundance and opportunity. And when you start to see the pennies drop and the data and the numbers, they're like, man, how did I get over there? Like, let's roll. Like, and it's pretty cool. So this isn't just like, oh, let's mug off these people that are in a life of lack. We can all get here.
For sure. Yeah.
One of my goals is to help 100,000 Kiwis improve their financial literacy and in turn help create a better New Zealand. Generate has a very similar goal to educate and empower Kiwis to make smart KiwiSaver decisions so more of us can be better off at retirement. That's why I'm stoked to have them on board as sponsors. Together, we can reach more people and make this goal a reality. If you've never got KiwiSaver advice before, book a no obligation chat with a Generate advisor at generatekiwisaver.co.nz/change. They'll even put you in the draw to win 5k worth of vouchers just for having a chat, whether or not you decide to sign up. T's and C's on that webpage. A copy of the product disclosure statement is available at generatekiwisaver.co.nz. The issuer of the scheme is Generate Investment Management Limited, and of course, past performance does not guarantee future returns.
I think people that live in a life of abundance as well are also pretty resilient. I think that's a common trait I see with people who live in that way. They, generally speaking, wanted to do like a whole pot on this, but resilience and pain tolerance are kind of the same thing. Like your ability to take a hit and just have a shield on you. And that's like what you're saying. You choose your feelings and your reaction to feelings. And eventually you get so good at it that sometimes you don't feel what you should when something happens. Like, that's pain tolerance.
Yeah.
And like successful entrepreneurs have the highest pain tolerance and resilience because normally they've been through hell.
Yes.
And they had to do it all themselves. Like, you don't just wake up one day and be like, I've got a $20 million company with 30 staff. Like, you started with no one on your own with no money and you had to do it. So every little bit, through that process, you become extremely resilient. You end up with, you have to believe in like a life of abundance to go through that. But also it becomes, if you can build your resilience so that things don't affect you as much and you're constantly like in that positive, and then like the negative stuff you don't really want to deal with and you just sort of like, you just brush it off. It's a nice place to be, eh? Like, why wouldn't you want to be there?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes when I see people react really poorly at work or something to a problem that goes wrong, I'm like, ugh. Like, just tell me the problem and, like, I'll fix it. Like, I don't even like hanging around, like, the long explanation of what happened. I'm like, next.
Yeah, because you're starting to repel, like, negativity.
Yeah. And I've already been through it. Like... I know what it feels like, man. Like, and the way to get out of it is not to talk about it 38,000 times.
Yeah.
Like, the way to get out of it is to
put the steps together.
Yeah, let's go. Like, how do we fix this? Do that first. How do we make sure it never happens again? Implement that. Done. Boom. Next.
Should we call that guy that had the same problem, or that lady that told me about it one time?
Or ask Google or ChatGPT. Like, yeah. And eventually, because you know the solutions and you create resilience. And you have this pain tolerance, you can just deal with shit.
Yeah.
It's easy.
I was thinking about, how I was saying about how it might have even been on the Life of Lack, but no, it might have been like it's John, John's telling me that, you shouldn't be trying to help people because, it's the tax rules around property that, for over 50 years or something and backing you, whatever. So, mate, do you not think that there's things that frustrate me around tax rules in business, but it didn't stop me like building a business nor helping people. Like, imagine if the government...
Just tax.
Yeah, well, but like, imagine if the government said, for like each, person that you help with their personal finance, we're going to give you $1,000. You know how fucking minted I would be?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but they don't.
No.
But it doesn't... But I don't sit there and go, you know what, like I might not do keep the change because the government aren't going to give me $1,000 for each of the people. So like, you can kind of always take people who look at things where there's so many restrictions and whatnot, and then you can basically go, yeah, but over in this world, like that didn't stop someone from creating shit in the settings that are there. So do a bit more of this. Like, you're doing this, John. We need a bit of this. Like, we still need people to do shit within the settings. It's not
Shut your trap, John.
the top tax rate goes to 39% just as I'm starting to earn, a couple of $100K. I'm like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
My answer isn't, I'll button off. I will.
Yeah, let's dial this back. There's no point.
Yeah, it's, shit. I've got to cop it. I've got to cop 6% on. I was just getting to the point where, okay. But anyway, because you look at the world with abundance, and you're like, oh, well, it would be great if it wasn't there and I would reallocate that money and do different things. And maybe even changes my behavior where I spend more Anyway, so it's so easy to, when you're in that lack, to look at other people that are doing well, or settings that you think are holding other people back, and then forget that there's people with the same settings or people with things going against them that they wish were different too.
Yeah.
But they're not banging on about it, nor online, nor telling other people why they shouldn't do something. They're like, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
The train has left the station. Let's get some shit done.
Yeah, for sure. There's heaps of stuff that I don't like, but I don't let it worry me too much.
Yeah.
Sometimes I catch myself thinking about things. I'm like, man, I hate the Reserve Bank, but it's not like, oh, I don't agree with how the monetary system works. I'm not going to go to work and try and earn some.
Yeah.
It's like you have to. That's the game, and you've just got to play it. You've got to play the hand that you're dealt.
Yeah.
And since that's the case, you might as well try play it good.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I got a good example recently, mate, where, we've gone in Next Advisory from free content to, okay, I'm sick of people signing up to shit, saying they'll come and they're not doing anything with our content. So I'm like, you know what? We've given you enough free educational tools. If you want to come to some paid workshops, you can do that. And I launched these workshops and it's $100 and I might be selling 30 people to these workshops. And as an entrepreneur, when you're building something, every time you get a market fit, you're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, but I still have a moment of man, should I have been doing this sooner? And my brain is also well, will they pay $100 to come to a workshop when you've been helping them for so long? But I've done the work to know, no, that's why they will pay $100 because you've added so much value already. But you know that through abundance, and you give the information for free, knowing that it will come back, the world will give it back, and you don't need fucking the government to give you $1,000 for each of the people. The market will reward you eventually. People pay the money. And then I'm like, you know what? I need to go a bit wider and let's bring in some people. And I launched the first workshop of 2025, and the most I think I'd sold was, say, 40 tickets, and then I started to cap them at 30, 40 people just to ensure that we have a good amount of people just in case there's too many questions. This one, I'm like, right, let's just send it. And there's 50 people purchased in 24 hours. I'm like, whoa. I just created a digital product with a workshop that hasn't been yet.
Yeah.
And run an email out to people, and $5,000 is now sitting in the bank account.
Yeah.
That isn't a small amount of money. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm going to ensure 100 people come. So it's a $10,000 workshop. Now, years ago, I probably didn't actually think that I didn't have a seed planted that I could have $10,000 sitting in a bank account before hosting a workshop, and that you sit on Zoom with two people and have a yarn, and people sit there for 2 hours and learn some stuff, and there's 10 grand for doing that. But that should...
It does sound pretty wild when you say it like that.
Yeah. Hopefully that blows some people's minds. But even I go and do these things because I live in a world of abundance, and I don't always get these offerings right, and I get smacked in the face. But now I've got a new ceiling. I'm thinking, fuck, I'm traveling to Wellington to speak for $5,000. But I can do 100 people in a workshop from my office without having to go to Wellington.
Yeah.
Is my $5,000 too cheap? Everything just changes again. And then I'm like, I wonder what the next guest is going to be like. They might not be as popular, for instance.
Yeah.
But I hope that just shows how much money is actually out there. Because I've gone from, okay, let's start doing some paid workshops to, okay, let's cap them at 30 people. Bang, they're selling out. Okay, we can do multiple of them. No one's asked for a refund. I've said to them, because I live in a world of abundance, if you don't learn anything, let me know. Why are you the $100? I'll stay back at the office and do it. Right, let's bring in a different person. Bang, there'll be 100 people there at a minimum. And now I'm going to fucking make sure there's 100 people there because I want to do a 10 grand workshop.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have 10 grand workshop on the goal list for 2025. It just starts to happen. And I'm like, okay, now it becomes a goal. But without, if I'm living in scarcity of like, they'll never pay $100 to come to a Zoom stream, doesn't happen. So I have to go to the market with like, you will pay $100 for this and I will see you there and it will be epic. And if it's not, you can have your $100 back.
Yeah. And you also go through like a period of like, once you have the thought process of abundance, you like try your first one and it doesn't work. But that doesn't stop you because you know that it's possible to sell 100 people webinar, because some people do 10,000 people webinars.
Yes.
So it just means you haven't got the formula right yet. But because you can live in that abundance mindset, you just keep trial and erroring stuff and testing until you get it right. And then eventually it's like, boom.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yep.
Da-da-da-da-da. That formula we'll use from now on.
Yep. And again, it's like I see the internet as a tool to learn, be inspired, take action, think bigger, grow and connect. Now, I promise you, I did not build the payment processor. I don't know who did, someone overseas.
Yeah.
But I'm really grateful that they built that thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Because sending 100 invoices for $100 would have sucked ass.
Yeah.
And I probably would have been like, I can't be bothered with the admin, I'm not going to do it. I didn't build Zoom. Okay? I didn't build Gmail that I send the emails out. Like, I didn't build half of the shit.
Yeah.
But when I look at all that stuff, again, living a life of abundance, I'm very grateful that all those people did that work, because then I'm like, look at what I can now do.
Yeah, 100%, man. There's so much, eh?
Yeah, it is crazy. And, you're just scratching the surface. So then, that happens for me. Then it becomes really hard for me to tell people like, oh, it's hard to make money on the internet. Yeah, it's hard. Like, those days are gone. Or, like, oh, people wouldn't pay to go to a workshop online. I'm like, oh, shit. I've got too much data.
Yeah.
Or when people are telling me, like, because I look at other things and I think, man, you got a way sexier business. You could be doing that. Like, nah, it wouldn't work in our industry. I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah.
But so uses the internet to see why they can't do something.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Man, the internet's wild, eh? How much...
It's completely changed the game, and I don't think we really understand how much abundance the internet has given us.
Yeah. Man,
because we're still kind of trapped.
Forms of communication. To be honest, like, video meetings and stuff existed, but it's probably the one good thing that came out of the COVID time, eh?
Yeah.
Is forcing everyone to use the technology so you can see it. And like 70% of people put it down afterwards and probably have never used it again, but there is a section of society that does continuously use that stuff. Yeah, that's so helpful, eh?
Well, of that $10,000, 40% will get paid to tax as well, because
Which
top
is
tax bracket.
so valuable.
Yeah, and even like every time I increase my income, there is like a little birdie on my shoulder that's like, it's only like 60% of this, because 40% is getting carved off to, and you start to, and we've had conversations before of like, do you? And it will be interesting if they keep increasing tax rates. Like, what happens to high income earners? Do they dial it back? And yeah, we've touched on that differently. But at the moment, I'm still like, okay, I still
You just have to fight, man.
Yeah. I still make sense of running the workshop.
Yeah.
Replying to everybody, going to work on a Saturday or a Sunday, like building it. Other people like probably wouldn't, and that's fine. Like, we've all got different goals. But abundance, I think you start with opportunity. Lack, you start with fear. And everything's like shrinking and fear and not possible. Like, what if they do ask for a refund? I don't know, man. Like, give them the $100 back.
Yeah.
Fucking pretty scary.
Yeah.
What if they all do? Well, your workshop sucked.
Yeah.
You probably shouldn't run that again. You probably want to get better.
Yeah.
And you probably want to master something, as you often talk about. What else you got for us there, mate?
Oh, that's just making me think about like how I think about some things sometimes. This only just came up because we're talking about this life of lack again. But like, I just, on the way here this morning, I lost my license.
You're in a life of lack right now.
Oops.
Yeah.
So like, I guess, and then I was like, it doesn't really upset me. I just do the thing and get like the work license and carry on, and then get my car going or whatever. But then the other day we had some very early in the morning. I was up at like 5 a.m. and there were some people outside my house by the bus stop, like smashing it, and they were obviously on some kind of drug and like horrible with bandanas, look like they'd rob you, all this kind of stuff. And someone's called the cops, and the cops turn up and they let them go.
Oh, I was about to say they tasered them.
No, they talked to them and made them walk down the road, and they let them go. And I'm like, how come if I was the wrong way, I only just thought of this. I was like, that's unfair, eh? They let them go who are like damaging property, and I lose my license on an abandoned road. But like, who cares?
Yeah,
I'll just get my license back and it'll be all good. And those people will probably get into trouble at some point, or hurt, or have a drug overdose, or
I was kind of thinking, well, who's paying to fix that shit they were smashing?
that's your 40% of your webinar.
I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. I need to go run some more webinars.
But that's actually it though, eh? Like the actual answer is like, oh, if tax is 40%, I just need to make it twice.
Yeah, because
So go get more. It's not like you can't.
Yeah,
so you just got to do it.
Bandana Brigade need to go and bash up another bus stop so that I need to pay some more fucking taxes. However, my tax money will go to a private sector company, hopefully, that'll be charging some sort of margin and making some profit. They'll be paying tax on that too, but the repair job will keep the economy going. It's it's crazy when you start to think like that. However, that's where you can get yourself caught down a rabbit hole. It's like, well then, like what's fair, what's unfair, and if you get stuck there, life's tough.
You have to be real careful of that, because it's funny how it took me like a whole day to come up with that, right? Because my brain's not trained to think like that at all anymore. It's only because we're talking about this stuff that it made me think, that's unfair.
Yeah.
But if you do that, and then I come in here and record this, and then I go to a friend's place for dinner later, and I whinge for 2.5 hours about how unfair the system is, and this happened to me and not to them, and blah, blah, blah. It's not very attractive to be in that sort of like, that's that negative thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not attractive, and I don't think it's hard to attract abundance when you're not attractive. And I think there is a bit of like that law of attraction type thing involved in abundance, and you just have to believe that it's there. It's like delusional belief again. I've talked about that already on the other pods, but it's a way better way to be, and just know that everything will be sweet,
Well, I think, because I know people don't like believe in the law of attraction and whatever, and like, however you want to explore it. It's I think a good way, that one note I've written here is that like, when you're in a life of abundance, doesn't mean you've got heaps of shit. Like this is the way you live. You're willing to give. And when you're in a life of lack, you're fear-driven. So how could you let go of something? You can't, because you're like, well, what if I never get it back? But when you're in abundance, you're like, okay, I know I can let that go.
I get it back in 28 days.
And interestingly, with the Keep the Change $100 Christmas challenge, so many people said to me like, man, I'm definitely going to do that again. Like, this has happened since. And someone even sent a photo the other day where they'd given their $100, and then they randomly got given $100 back like a month later.
Wow.
And I'm like, fuck. Yeah. So
weird, eh?
yeah, I think, and
Normally good things happen to good people, right?
I like to think so.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is one of the hacks, that if you don't feel like you can give, whether it's your time, whether it's money, whether it is your education, your love, your energy, then start to do it in a small way. And you might move yourself from lack to abundance, because you're basically forcing yourself to get out of that fear mode. And it's like, this isn't even just about money. It can just be that you can't make the right friends, and that, there's not enough good people in my community and stuff like that. Well, that's what the world's going to show you as well. So then why not be the person that you want to be friends with? And recently we've been talking about it in a different way, where it's people saying, how are you doing? It's, give them some energy back. Fucking well, flying, mate. Yeah, really good. Like, unbelievably well. People are like, oh, better move to Australia, man. Too positive.
Yeah, yesterday afternoon I went to like the driving range to just go and hit some golf balls, because last time I played horrifically and it was embarrassing. And there's a young guy there that I haven't talked to in a while, probably like a couple of years. And he was like, oh, how's business and stuff? I was like, man, we are flying, eh? Just like naturally.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I heard. I was like, oh, yeah, interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, so like the message gets out anyway.
Yeah.
If you live in that way.
Yeah.
Like, haven't seen him for years, so someone who knows me and has talked to him or something has, had the conversation.
Yeah. And then
and you'd be rather be known like that than like, nah, I don't even want to ask about him.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they start telling other people, saw Mikey at the driving range, didn't want to speak to me, and like things obviously going pretty tough. We heard that rumor.
Yeah.
And then it just like spirals, and then shit that's not even true.
Yeah, and then they go get their loan from a bank instead of from Mikey.
Yeah, damn it. Yeah, so like I think energy is a good thing to be mindful of. Even I was coming back from the supermarket the other day, and I've wanted to try the Whittaker's hazelnut chocolate balls. Mate, they're $15.
Wow.
Even I stood at the end of the aisle for a bit and was like, really? Yeah. And I'm like, holy, there ain't many in here. But I'm like, I really want to try them. So I'm like, I'm paying the $15.
Is this a chocolate bar?
No, it's not a bar. It's like they've made these little balls and then wrap them individually and put them in this gold wrapping.
Oh.
This podcast is sponsored by Whittaker's hazelnut chocolate balls, whatever they're called. And I'm like, okay, I've got to do this because I actually want to try these, and I love hazelnut, and I reckon they look epic, and the marketing has done such a good job. And I have the first one, and Taz is like, oh shit, this is where it's not sponsored by Whittaker's. I'm like, I don't know if they're worth $15, but I had to spend the money to try it. And then we get in the lift, and there's 3 other people, and I'm like, would you guys like one?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I don't feel like that happens in New Zealand anymore, you know? Like, and they were like, of course they're like, no, you fucking pedo.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I shouldn't say. I actually probably shouldn't say that, but I did.
It's too late now.
It's too late.
We don't edit these.
But they didn't want one. But I'm like, okay, they leave that lift thinking, oh, well, I hope thinking like, oh, that's pretty cool, you know? We could have had a chocolate if I wanted to. I'm kind of glad they said no because they're individually about $1.83 each, I think I calculated.
It's all hard.
But in a life of abundance, you're willing to say, oh, hey, do you want one? And if all 3 say yes, it's cool. But I think when you start to live like that, then your brain does go like, oh, maybe offer them a chocolate. Because I could kind of see them looking at it. And I'm like, oh, do you want one? You know?
Do you reckon you would have offered them if you had tried it the first one and it was amazing?
Look, I would like to say, given this is recorded, I would like to say, of course. Yeah. But I think if you like head down life of lack, the people in the lift will be arseholes. Don't speak to them as well.
Yeah.
And that there's no good energy, no good people in my area. There's no way that you're like. Then they're like, oh shit, this guy's offering me a chocolate. They have to be nice. Like they have to. Like, oh, okay, cool. We've like broken everything. It's not, it's not this like inadequacy and fear and yuckness in the lift. It's,
for sure.
It's more positive energy.
Yeah, I think generosity is a pretty important part of it too, eh?
Yeah.
Because if you have abundance, you can share it around. Yeah. Because why not? Because there's more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they sort of go hand in hand a little bit.
And that's also why Mikey likes paying so much tax because he...
And speeding tickets.
Anything for us before we wrap up here, mate?
Not really, mate. I think that's just like practically most stuff is factually unlimited. The only restriction or shortage of something is your own ability and skill to go get it. Those things can be worked on, developed, and made better so you can access everything. But never been a time in human history where we've got access to so much, eh? And I think because that's a fact, and you can't really argue with it, like use it to your advantage and then help it build out stuff that you want. Like start believing that the things that you do want are possible and then go and take the action to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like if you're stuck in that life of lack type stuff, then I suggested this on an earlier pod, but write down all the things that you are frustrated by in that life of lack. And I know that most like people who really live in this, they'd never do this, but like write them all down and then just flip it. And so if you think that, there's not much money in the world, well, like, that's just statistically definitely not true anymore. But anyway, you would write down like the opposite. So it's like, there's a lot of money in the world. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of friendly people. I'm worthy of love. I live in gratitude. I'm free. I can make decisions and like all the stuff that you want your life to be and abundantly. And then just condition your mind.
When this comes out, I want to, when you put it on the Instagram story and tell everyone that it's out, can you follow up with a poll? And the poll has to be something along the lines of, because I'm interested in this, basically who here has achieved more than they ever thought was possible? And then underneath it can be
yes, no, not yet.
Yeah, or not yet. They think they will do it, or people that think that it's impossible, basically.
Maybe a good question would be, who's achieved something that they once thought wasn't possible?
Yeah.
Because then it kind of proves that,
Because I just live this life now that I just can't even believe it, really.
yeah,
Like sometimes I'm like, never thought this was going to happen.
yeah,
And it's pretty cool, eh?
definitely.
And
It's better than like, yeah, I fucking knew my car was going to break down and I wouldn't have enough money and they wouldn't finance my repairs and the world sucks and like the business owner's a capitalistic asshole that hates me and fucking, yeah. Better than that?
yeah, way better than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that there probably is like quite a few people that if you ask yourself that like, oh yeah, if I think back to what I was thinking at 18 and stuff, I have achieved more than I thought.
Yeah.
And that's like a pretty good, like you should be grateful for that to start with and then lead down the abundance thing after that. Just remind yourself of what you do have.
Yeah, definitely. I think, part of doing a couple of pods like this is because there's been a lot of feedback recently around how people are enjoying like the mindset sorts of these podcasts as well, and how they're seeing that money isn't just money, and it's not always just, spend less, make more, invest over here, what's the stock to invest in. If you're not tidying up some of this shit, then it kind of doesn't really matter what happens. And we've talked about that. Like we probably started with that content where it's like, okay, tidy this stuff up and tidy the mind up and whatnot and learn some of these principles, and then things get easier as you start doing better. But as I think people are graduating through the content and through their journeys, they're then seeing how important this shit is.
Yeah.
And how, oh yeah, man, I used to live like that over there and I need to be mindful that I don't anymore.
Yeah.
Because we can all get caught like really quickly, like flipping straight back into some of that stuff, and it just doesn't serve yourself well, your family, your community, etc. is always bang on about.
100%, man.
Righto. Good luck out there. Continue to live a life of abundance. Let us know what a life of abundance means to you. It's something different to everyone, and that's completely fine. The key is that you actually do the thinking about what it means to you.